Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I made a promise, can't nobody take it. I chose to put you above all the nations. Out of your graves, I chose to awaken. We made a covenant, don't you forsake it. Come get protected while they going crazy. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. Israel, my firstborn, my baby. I woke you up in your land of captivity. I do not change, I want you to remember me. Laws and commandments, I gave you the remedy. Go read the testimonies for your memory. I sent them prophets, but you wasn't hearing me. I come to you if you really come near to me. I heard your cry, now it's time to take it to me. I'm the one got you from all of your enemies. Who you know open the sea. The waters was bitter, but I made it sweet. Case you ain't know how to swim, I'm your protector, so I made you walk on your feet. This a reminder you married to me. I just want you to be all I called you to be. They called you niggas, but I made you priests. I'm about to give you back everything. I'm sending plays for you. I'm sending boys, drying up rivers. I leave them dead for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You heard what I said for you. For you, you only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel. I'm the reason you in captivity. We made a covenant, you ain't remember me. You broke the covenant, I sent your enemy. Get out my lane since you wasn't fearing me. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name. I'm the reason why you in the hood. I'm the reason of all your pain. I'm sending flows fast, daily. Think I don't love you. Y'all my babies. Gave my son, must be crazy. Come out that system, come out of that lane. They got that military, it would not phase me. It would not move me, it would not graze me. Remember Egypt, I did all that for my people. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. You only ever known. Y'all the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Created everything, but I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name on it, my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, Facebook Live. Good evening, Breaking Strongholds Ministries. Good evening, YouTube with Orlando, keeping it simple. How's everybody doing this evening? You know, I'm just coming to try to let you know that I am trying to fulfill my word, because I did say I was going to come on this evening at 7 o'clock. On the first day of the week, you know, and I wanted to make sure that I give you a word that the Most High gave me this week, because of everything that's been going on in the news, and things like that. And I just wanted to make sure I continue to fulfill my purpose that Yahuwah has gave me to do, you know. So I'm coming here this evening just to give you a rhema word or a teaching, however you want to say it. This evening I won't be on too long, but I'm gonna make sure I tell you, give you what I'm supposed to give you this evening. I'm not gonna be rushing, but I want to make sure I give you something, because a lot of us right now are discombobulated because of what we see that's going on in society. But I want to say this: I hope last week was the Most High gave you everything that your heart desired. I hope He gave you wisdom and knowledge and understanding. I hope that He has really truly blessed you over and abundantly with love, kindness, and joy and meekness. I hope He has blessed you with wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Not just you, but your offsprings as well, you know. So I hope He really truly has given you everything that you have desired for. Last week for me was okay. I just had to, you know, I had a good dear friend of mine to go into his resting place. And last week, you know, it was kind of jacked up for me. But real good loyal friend, or a real good committed friend to our relationship. So that kind of messed with me a little bit, you know. But you don't find many people like him, you know. Only the poor in the physical are more loyal than those who have, you know. So my condolences goes out to the Mallory family. And his wife and his kids and things of that nature. But let us go ahead and get started this evening in Exodus chapter 20 verses 1 through 17. And it reads that El spake all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah thy El, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, and thou shalt have no other Els before me, and thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heavens above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that in the waters under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuwah thy El, am a jealous El, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children until the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahuwah thy El in vain, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Yahuwah thy El. In it thou shalt not do any works, thou nor thy sons, nor thy daughter, thy manservants, nor thy maidservants, nor thy cattle, nor thy strangers that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahuwah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy fathers and thy mother, that their days be long upon the land which Yahuwah thy El giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbors, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. So let us pray this evening. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine to your kingdom, power to your glory, forever and ever. So let it be. Like I said, good evening, good evening, good evening. Facebook Live with Breaking Strongholds Ministry. YouTube with Orlando Keeping It Simple. Today I'll be coming out of the book. I'll be coming out the Apocryphers today. The Apocryphers. Do you need it? The Apocryphers chapter 1. The Apocryphers chapter 1. The Apocryphers, the book of Maccabees. The book of Maccabees. Chapter 1, here you go. Chapter 1, verses 11 through 15. Coming out the Apocryphers, the first Maccabees. Chapter 1, verse 11 through 15. And the key verse is going to be verse 11. Let me read that over. The book of Maccabees, Maccabees, chapter 1, verses 11 through 15. And the key verse is verse 11. And I'm going to read it. And it reads, hold on. And it reads, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens, that are round about us, for since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. Let me read that over. It says, in those days went out there, it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. For since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. Okay? And if I may give a title of the text today, the title of the text today is, There's Nothing New Under the Sun. There's nothing new under the sun. That's the title of the text today, the title of the text this evening. And I read these words before, but I'm going to say it again. The word covenant is a 13th century word. Covenant. Covenant is a mutual consent or an agreement of two or more persons to do or to forbear some act or thing. A covenant is a contract. A covenant is a stipulations. A writing containing the terms of agreements or contracts between parties, or the clause of agreements in a deed containing contracts. Okay. Also, the word selfish. Selfish. Selfish is a 1630 word. A 1630 word. 16th century. It's a 1630. It's a mid-16th century word. A mid-16th century word. It means caring only for self. The characteristics of one who cares only and chiefly for his own personal pleasures, serving one's own interests over other considerations. Okay? Let me read that over. It says, selfish is a mid-16th century word, meaning caring only for self. Characteristics of one who cares only or chiefly for his own personal pleasures, serving one's own interest over other considerations. Okay? So, the Maccabees are in the Apocryphers. Okay? The name of Maccabees means hammer. It was given to Judas, but in Christians' tradition, it is extended to include his family. Okay? Let me just go down to the history of the Maccabees. It says, sometimes about the time of the era, the first Maccabees appears in Greek translations. Understand that the Greeks and the Romans are cousins. It says, sometimes by the turn of the era, one Maccabees appears in Greek translations. The late 1st century Jewish historian Josephus used this as a major source for his iniquities. Josephus perhaps found a copy in Jerusalem before the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 Common Era. Okay, the historical context of it. Judea had known a long period of relative peace and prosperity under first Alexander the Great, then under the successor of two Alexander in Egypt. As a result of Alexander's rule, Hellenism had dominated all the countries of the East Mediterranean basin. By the 2nd century BCE, however, when Judea came under the control of Greece, the successor to Alexander ruled in Mesopotamia and Syria. Jews were divided over how to relate to the Gentile culture. Okay, it says the upper classes in Jerusalem, the Hellenizers, had long adopted Greek ways, while the poor people of the rural areas tended to cling to the customs of their ancestors. Understand that. The Hellenizers had adopted Greek ways, means the people of power. Hellenizers, let me go to this. Hellenizers. Hellenizers. Because what we're talking about, Hellenizers or Hellenism is when you adapt into the Greek and the Roman customs of the way you live. That's what it means. When we're reading the Apocryphers, and we're talking about the first and second Maccabees and the other books, we're talking about Hellenism, meaning that when you look at the Roman culture, they was practicing what we call today idolatries. Hellenized. They was their own culture or their own way of living. It says the book of 1 Maccabees consistently presented the Hellenization as renegades or apostate, and their introductions of Greek gymnasiums and all that went with it. Okay. So when we're looking at the book of Maccabees, right? It's talking about a Hellenistic period where the Greeks were basically running over everybody on the planet, everybody in that time period. They were just dominating everybody in the time, and they was forcing everybody to go to their customs or how they lived their lives and the way they lived their lives and things of that nature there. Okay, and so in order for people to prosper during that time frame, people had to make a contract or a covenant with the Greek customs. Okay? Okay, in First Maccabees 1 and 9, okay, I'm finna tell you what it also means when they're talking about the Hellenistic period. Okay, it says in 1 and 9 in Maccabees, First Maccabees 1, chapter 1, verse 9, it reads, "And after his death they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evil was multiplied in the earth." That means that when Alexander the Great died, and the people took charge after his death, that means that evil increased upon the earth because of these kings. So now, in order for you to be able to prosper in the time of the Greek and Greco-Roman time period, you had to adapt to their ways in order to survive, in order for you to make it, right? That's very deep if we look at it today. Okay, hypothetically, and I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. Let's look at our society today, right? In order for people to be able to make it and survive in this world, they got to adapt to the customs of this world today in order to make it. And if you don't adapt to this world today, you will not survive. You will not prosper in the manners in which you want to prosper. And how we look at, and it's very prolific. You know, the Most High put this on my spirit last week because of what's going on in the media today. What's going on with the two brothers, Kyrie Irving and Kanye West and all the other people. He put this on my spirit today because we have to look at the antagonizers of Kanye West and Kyrie Irving. Because those people who are antagonizing them have adapted to the ways of the Greeks and the Romans in order for them to be able to survive. Only the poor people in this time period did not adapt to the ways and refused to live by their customs. So they was outcast. They was talked about. They was hated because they did not want to adapt to the ways of the Greeks and the Romans. But the rich people, the people who wanted to live that lifestyle, they adapted to those ways that the Greeks and the Romans wanted them to have. And that's what you can see today that's going on in society. That's what you can see today that's going on in the world. And that's the hard part about reality, is us accepting that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that you see now, what's going on now in society, is no different than what's been played out throughout history. And that's the hard part about reality, is for us to be able to accept what's going on in the present time and realizing that it's been going on since ancient days. And see, I talk to people sometimes and they tell me, well, Kyrie should just shut his mouth. And I said, well, when you start to do that, you losing your constitutional right, where it says your constitutional right, you have a right to freedom of speech. You have a right to freedom of speech. So if you have a right to freedom of speech, why do you get punished because of what you say or what you do? So if you're telling a person to shut up and just play basketball, you're telling a person that they don't have a right to freedom of speech. So what happened in the time of the Greco-Roman period, or the Greek period, is that the Hebrews was so much up under pressure and they was up under so much poverty, they said, okay, because of let me go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and get started in this text. And I'm gonna be jumping around, and I got a couple of articles for you to. I'm gonna read a couple of articles too, because I want us to understand the severity of it, and I want us to understand that there's nothing new under the sun. What's going on today is no different than back in ancient time. There's no difference in the 60s. There was no difference in the 1920s. There was no difference when since existence of society. And I'm going to read you some articles, but I'm not going to read you many, but I'm going to go ahead and read you. So I'm going to read out the Septuagint today. This is the Septuagint. I'm going to read out the Septuagint, okay? And it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men, unrighteous men, men who really didn't want to keep the covenant. Wicked men who didn't want to keep the covenant, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. Listen to this. For since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. Listen to that. Listen to that. For since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. The reason why they wanted to make a covenant with the heathens is because of their living conditions. What they wanted to get from the heathens, from a tangible experience, a moment. It's not saying that they really love the heathens, but they're saying the only way that we can survive in this world, because of our living, because of what we actually see that we're going through now, we got to make a covenant with the heathens in order for us to survive. In order for us to survive in this world today, we got to make a covenant with the heathens. And see, that's the only way a lot of us at this point right now see that the only way that we can make it is we make a covenant with the heathens. We can't, if we don't do nothing else, we got to make a covenant with the heathens in order to survive. And see, today I was listening to Damon Dash, right? And Damon Dash was talking about, in order to be free, you got to be independent. And then he said, in order for you to be independent, you got to be able to have dreams. And then in order for you to have, and once you know that you got a dream, you got to pursue that dream with all your heart, mind, soul, and purpose. See, once we sign that contract, all of our dreams go out the window. Everything that we have made, everything that we desire to have from that dream or from whatever it is, goes out the window because we have signed a contract with somebody who really don't care nothing about us. And the only reason why they made that covenant is because they didn't have the fortitude to stand on the Most High's word during trying times. If he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you, that means that whatever you're going through, you got to stand on his word at the time you're going through whatever it is.
That's right.
And see, that's the thing about it is those wicked men did not want to stand on the Most High's words through this time. They wanted to give in to the heathens because of the simple fact of their living conditions at that moment. Not because of anything else. And see, that's what, you know, when you look at everything that's going on into society today, you wonder why the wicked men are coming against the righteous ones. And the reason why they're coming against them because it was a selfish move. They was thinking about themselves at the time they made this covenant. They wasn't thinking about everybody and how this decision would affect the majority of the people or how this decision would affect the community. They wasn't thinking about that. They said in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. For since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. They ain't thinking about the impact of the covenant they have made. They're not thinking about what is the repercussions of the covenant they have made with the heathens. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about that temporary moment that they're going through. They're just thinking about that temporary moment, that what they're going through, so that they can make that hasty decision. I tell my son all the time, whenever I talk to him, I said, never make a quick decision in a situation that, what did I say? I said, never make a hasty decision in a situation that looks to be bad, to some effect. Never make a hasty decision in a situation that appears to be bad. I tell my son that all the time, because what appears to be bad may not ever necessarily be bad. It may just be testing your faith. Never go out here and sign contracts with people. Never put yourself in a desperate situation, because when when the people know that you're in a desperate situation, they're going to use and abuse you. That's what most artists do, most athletes do, most entertainers do. And I remember, I'm going to get to some scriptures in a second. I remember going to my ear and nose doctors one day, right? And he said he was going through doing some checks on me, and he was showing me all his degrees that he had. And he said, "Brother, let me tell you something." He said, "That's a walk of shame when I walk by those degrees." He said, "Because you never know what I had to do to get into those institutions to get those degrees." He said, "I can get a phone call at 12 o'clock midnight to be in California the next morning. I got to cancel all my appointments to be in California the next day." Because he made a contract with some people he should have never made a contract with. So when we're looking at what's going on to society today, the wicked people that we see today, they've made a contract with people that they should have never made a contract with, which are the heathens. So let us go to Exodus, right? Exodus chapter 23. And see, one thing we shouldn't necessarily be upset about, but we should realize that there's nothing new under the sun. If it happened back then, it's going to happen now. That's the mindset that we have to have in order to be able to deal with the current situation. In Exodus chapter 23, verses 32 and 33, it reads, "Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their God. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me." Listen to that. "For if they serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee." See, a lot of the times when people really make a true covenant with people that they know they shouldn't make a covenant with, it's just not a snare to the Most High, but it's a snare to the people who's watching them, because the influences they have over the people who are watching them. Because they're giving them a false perception of the reality. Because nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. When you make a contract, when people make a contract with the heathens, they don't know what's in that contract. They don't know what's going on behind them closed doors. We don't know what they had to do to be able to get that contract. But our Hebrew brothers had to, hold on, I'll get to that. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2. And see, right now, that's why I say majority of the times when I pray, I said, Most High, let us see the way you want us to see, hear the way you want us to hear, and speak the way you want us to speak. Because if we did it from a physical viewpoint, we'll miss what the Most High is trying to show us. Because right now it's showing us in our face what we should and should not do with people who don't care nothing about us. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2. Okay? It says, "When Yahuwah thy El shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriage with them, Listen to this. Thy daughter shall not give unto his sons, nor his daughter shall thou take unto thy son. And see, we have to listen to that, because the simple fact is what some of the commentators have done with their offspring. We don't know what these type of covenants that these people have made. And I can really want to call names and say these things, but I'm not. I really want to say some stuff, but I'm not going to say it. Because listen to this. Because when you make a covenant with strangers and heathens, for they will turn away thy sons from following me, that they will make serve other gods. So will the anger of Yahuwah be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. See, when you make a covenant with the heathens, right? You're not just bringing death on you, you're bringing death on your offspring. That's why he's telling you don't make a covenant with them, because they don't serve the same God that you serve, the same El that you serve. Their customs are not the same. Their traditions are not the same. Okay? So let us go to Numbers. Numbers chapter 25. Numbers chapter 25. I'm just going to read verse 2 in Numbers chapter 25, verses 2. And it reads, and they shall call the people unto the sacrifice of their gods. Their gods. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods. See, what we see going on today in society, the people who we look at as being rich are considered to be the wicked people from the Most High viewpoint, because of how they got their success. And how they got their success is they made a contract with the heathens. So now what they did, they bowed down and served their gods, and they sacrificed everything that they had to sacrifice to get the means that they got. And what's their gods? What's their gods? Let's go to Matthew chapter 6, verses 24. And because the reason why, I'll tell you in a minute. Matthew chapter 6, verses 24. This is the world's God. This is the world's God right now. Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. This is the world's God. It says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one or love the others, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. See, when it says you cannot serve God or El, that's a spirit. Mammon is money. And see, when you look at the people who's rich today, that's who they serve. They serve mammon. They're going against everything that the Most High say. And what we see going on today is in Mark chapter 13, verses 12. What we see today going on today, for the last couple of weeks, what we see what's going on today and what's been going on for the last couple of weeks, Mark chapter 13, verse 12. It says, now the brother shall betray the brother to death. Listen to that. It says, now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son. The children shall rise up against their parents and shall cause them to be put to death. But the main thing, what you see going on in ESPN News today, now the brother shall betray the brother to death. He should be suspended. He should be this, and he should do that, and he should do that. And it's a brother against a brother. And see, sometimes we can't even, we think it says for the love of money is evil, right? And I'm paraphrasing. And these people who got this money made a covenant because they love money so much they wanted to be in a much better physical condition. Not spiritual, but physical conditions. They would do whatever they had to do. Because this was a physical choice, it wasn't a spiritual choice. So let me go back to Maccabees, 1 Maccabees, verse 12. 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 12. So what I'm trying to do is show you from the Bible how it relates to the Apocryphers, okay? Then it reads in 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verses 12, it said, so this device pleased them well. Let me read verse 11 again, and then I come back to verse 12. It says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, because on ESPN, that's how you hear. People are trying to persuade people about what the brother did. Then it says, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that round about us. For since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Okay, verse 13. And it says, then certain of the people were so forward there herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. See, these commentators was given permission to attack their brother. These brothers on these panels, on all these outlets and all these things, like they was given permission to go attack their brother because he was not doing what the heathens want them to do. So because he wasn't doing what the heathens want them to do, the king allowed them, the king allowed them to attack their own brother. That make any sense? Because nobody's allowed to do anything unless it's been given permission to do it. So the contract, the first point if I may give points, the first one is contract or covenant. Never make a contract or covenant with the heathens. Because once you read that contract, you're going to have some statutes and some ordinance that you're going to have to do that you may not want to do. Because you're going to be considered to be a hypocrite in the process. Okay, let me read verse 13 again. It says, then fixing of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. What is the ordinance? Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 12. Verses 30 and 31. Okay? What is ordinance? What is ordinances? In Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 30 and 31. What is the ordinance? It's statutes. It's ways of life, right? It says, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. Don't be trapped by following them. After that, they be destroyed from before thee. And that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. He said, don't be like them. Don't say I will do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto Yahuwah thy El, for every abomination to the Yahuwah which he hateth has they done unto their El, unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fires to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add hereto, nor diminish from it. See, right now we're in a moment where we're serving somebody else's God, right? It says in Matthew chapter 22 verses 39. It says, this is what we should be doing right now at this moment. This is the ordinance of Yahuwah. Matthew chapter 22 verses 39. This is what we should be doing at this moment. Regardless of what somebody did, this is what we should be doing. We shouldn't be following the heathen ordinance. We shouldn't be doing what they tell us to do. We should be doing nothing. We should have never made a contract with them. It says, this is what we should be doing. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. See, Kyrie and Kanye is our neighbor right now. And we should be loving on him. We should be treating them with the utmost respect. We don't understand everything that they done did and what they got going on in their life. And sometimes I hear people, make judgments. But we don't know if the people are playing chess or are they playing marbles. And we got to because if we don't know the game that they're playing, because they have such a diverse audience, we don't know what they're doing. So in the midst of whatever they're doing, we just got to love them through it. And if we get a chance to pull their coattail, pull their coattail. But that's what the situation is. Okay, let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2. Because once you make a contract with the heathens, you got to do what they tell you to do. That's why you see so much uproar on ESPN right now. That's why all the famous people are coming out and speaking on this, because they have made that contract with them and they got to do what the contracts say do. The ordinance, they got to follow the statutes in the ordinance. In Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2 it says, thus saith Yahuwah, learn not the ways of the heathens, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heavens are dismayed at them. Listen, verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain, no good, don't mean nothing. For one cutteth a tree out of the fires, the works of the hands of the workmen with an axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and hammer it and with hammer, that it move not. Talking about the Christmas tree. But this is just the lifestyle of the heathens, period. Do not learn the ways of the heathens. But when we look on TV, that's all we see is our wicked brothers have learned the ways of the heathens. And he's coming against his own brother because one of the brothers are trying to do right. Let's go to Psalms 106. See, Psalms 106, 34 through 38. See, a lot of the times, right? This is what I used to tell my son. Never make a hasty decision what appears to be a bad situation. That's what I used to tell my son. Never make a hasty decision that appears to be a bad situation. When you make a hasty decision into what appears to be a bad situation, you wind up making a bad decision. But in Psalms 106, 34 through 38, it reads, "They did not destroy the nation concerning whom Yahuwah commanded them, but were mingled among the heathens and learned their ways, learned their works, and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them." Anytime we learn the heathen ways, it's always a problem for us. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan, and the lands were polluted with blood. Thus were they defiled with their own works, and with a whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of Yahuwah kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance. He hated his own people. So when you make a covenant with the heathens, you got to abide by the ordinance and the statutes that's in that covenant. Let us go back to 1 Maccabees, verses 13, 14. And I'm going to read 15. Okay? And it says, "Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. Whereupon they built a place." Listen to this. Listen to this. "Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathens." That's when football, basketball, baseball, all the entertainments came about. Entertainment for the audience. The exercises where the Colosseums was built, where they used the Colosseums for entertainment and for the people, or sports. That's what was going on during that time period. When he say, whereupon they built a place of exercise, was a gymnasium, a Colosseum at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathens. And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathens, and were sold or were surrendered to do mischief. They said, now once they made the covenant, they went and built gymnasiums so the Hebrews could be able to go play sports in those gymnasiums and surrender to everything that was wicked in the gymnasiums. Like what we doing today in those coliseums, is it right or is it wrong? Is it giving any type of glorification to the Most High? See, sports goes all the way back to this time period right here. Just on a different level, how sports evolved. How sports evolved through that time period. It just come more glamorous. More people are able to make it into coliseums now. You're able to make more money off of the sports now. Because it says in verse 14, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathens, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathens, and were surrendered or to give in to do mischief. Everything that you see them brothers are doing on national television today is mischief, evil, wickedness. Okay? So once you make a covenant, you got to make. Once you made a covenant, you got to do what the ordinance is, and you got to what I mean by doing what the ordinance is, you got to conform to the ordinance. So whatever they tell you to do, whatever the heathens tell you to do in that ordinance, you got to do it. Ain't nothing. That's why they said Kyrie in order for Kyrie to go back and play basketball again, he got to do 6 things on the list before he can go back into there and play. And if he don't do those 6 things, he can't play no more. And see, that's how deep it is. When you make that covenant with them, you got to do what they say do, regardless of whatever it is. Unless you just give it up. But those other commentators, they don't make an ordinance with them. So they doing what they was told to do. Let us go to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. I'll be finished in about 15 minutes. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercy of El, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, unto El, which is your reasonable service. Listen to this. I want you to ask yourself this question. Is playing sports, presenting your body a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to El? Do you think the Most High is satisfied with people playing sports and people making money off your body the way they're doing? Do you think the Most High is really truly satisfied with His people by whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathens, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathens, and were sold to do mischief? Do you think the Most High is really satisfied without people being entertainment for people in these coliseums? Do you really truly think the Most High is really satisfied with the people? Do you really think so? Verse 12, Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says, be not conformed. Be not conformed to this world. The word conform means fashion, self according to. Don't be looking just like this world look. It says, Be not conformed to this world, but ye be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of El. Do you think the Most High is really happy with those brothers on the football team, on the football field, going out there every Sunday playing, getting their bodies beat up, having to take all this stuff to keep themselves fit to play this game? Then after 5 years, their bodies are tore up and beat up and damaged, where they're not even, most of them are not even able to walk after 20 years. And don't even have a career. They broke after the 4 or 5 years. Most of them are broke. Most of them don't have 4 or 5 different kids. Most of them in debt. Do you really think the Most High is really satisfied with that? 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 through 17. It said, Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what concord has Christ with Balaam? And what part has he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement has the temple of El with idols? The temple is the body of God with Els. For ye are temples of the living God. As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them. Listen to that. So do you really think the Most High is happy with how we treat our bodies when He's walking in us? I will be their El, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come from among them, and be ye separate, said Yahuwah, and touch not the unclean things, and I will receive you. Listen to this. Do you really think these brothers who have made this contract and these statutes and have to follow these statutes and ordinance really understand this part in verse 16? I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their El. Do you really believe that do you really think that they saying the Most High is in my body and I can't damage my body for nothing?
They say this.
Or do you think they see the money? Do you think those commentators see that they're talking about Most High when they talking about their brother? Let's go to 1 John 4 and 5. Listen to this, and I want you to understand what he's saying in this verse. It says, they are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world heareth them. We are of El. He that knoweth El heareth us. He that is not of El heareth us not. Whereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. He said, we are the people of the Most High, and they the people of the world. See, those people who made a covenant with the world and a contract with the world, and then got rich off the world, they are of the world. You got to speak to them the way they hear it. Us being of the Spirit, Okay, I'm going to go to 2 Maccabees. 1 Maccabees chapter 2, verses 17 through probably 19, 20 to 21, 22. Because, let me read you this verse, okay? Okay. I'm going to read you an article out of Al Jazeera. Aljazeera. Al Jazeera. Okay? This article came out February 21, 2021. 3 sixes. February 21st, 2021. Al Jazeera. Aljazeera. Okay? It says U.S. ex-policeman implicated New York Police Department, FBI, in Malcolm X murder. Al Jazeera came out on February 21st, 2021. It says U.S. ex-policeman implicated New York Police Department, FBI, in Malcolm X murder. Just going to read you a little bit. A former New York police officer has before his death implicated the New York Police Department and the FBI in the murder of civil rights leader Malcolm X on February 21st, 1965. A letter written by an ex-undercover New York Police Department policeman, Raymond Woods, alleged his department and the FBI covered up details of the assassination, saying he was ordered. Raymond Woods is a black person, a Hebrew. He was ordered to infiltrate the office, saying he was ordered to infiltrate the civil rights movement and had members of Malcolm X security detail arrested shortly before the killing. On February 24th, 1965, ministers and civil rights activist Malcolm X, 39, was shot in Harlem. And the assassin identified as member of the Nation of Islam, which was not true. Okay, it says Raymond Wood, he's the first black guy. He's a black guy who's an undercover agent for the FBI. He said, I participated in actions that in hindsight were deplorable and detrimental to the advancement of my own black people. My actions on behalf of the New York City Police Department was done under distress and fear, said Reggie Woods, a relative who read Raymond's letters aloud at press conference on Saturday. The letter said the arrest carried out in February 1965. Woods meant Malcolm X did not have security at the entrance of the ballroom where he was speaking that day. It is unclear when Woods died, but when he did not want the letter made public until after his death, saying he feared repercussions from authority if he came forward with his allegations, according to Reggie Woods. What am I saying? Because Raymond Woods made a contract with the people, the New York Police Department. He was used to help assassinate Malcolm X. From this article that I'm reading from Al Jazeera. Okay? I'm reading another one. New York Times. New York Times, what day is this? Okay, New York Times. CIA reportedly recruited blacks for surveillance of the Panther Party. Okay, this article came out March 17th, 1978. This is a well-known article issue. Everybody knows this, what they're doing, okay? But I'm just going to read it to you because I want us to understand something in verse 11. It says, the Central Intelligence Agent recruited American blacks in the late 1960s and early 1970s to spy on members of the Black Panther Party, both in the United States and in Africa, according to the former high-level officials of the agency who have first-hand knowledge of the operation. Details of these slanderous activities were considered among the agent's most sensitive and closely held information. The source said partly because of fear that disclosures about the program will arouse public accusations of racism in the intelligence agency. Only in the most reference did any of the inquiries in recent years into CIA activities ever uncover the program of black spying. At least some specific information about the CIA spying was provided to the 1975 Rockefeller Commissions and later to the Senate Intelligence Committee in their inquiries into illegal CIA activities, but those investigating groups did not include any specific mentions of recruitment and use of American blacks in their subsequent public report. And it was a movie done by one of the guys who was well famous for infiltrating the Black Panther Party and giving all the information. And when he did his final interview, after he did his final interview, he committed suicide because he felt bad because of what he did. That sounds like Judas. Okay, the last one. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to spell this. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Moguldom. 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 I think that's what it sounds like. Okay, swamp diversity. 4 Negro FBI agents who busted our savior Marcus Garvey. Swamp diversity. 4 Negro FBI agents who busted our savior Marcus Garvey. This article came out August 12, 2019. Okay, this scripture is prophetic when it comes to iconic civil rights and black empowerment leader Marcus Garvey. Though 4 black FBI agents and informant didn't literally kill the Jamaican-born activist, they assisted with his character assassination. They assisted with his character assassination, reported the Washington Post. It all happens under the black progress within the FBI who were diversifying the organization by hiring black agents and informants. Garvey had an immense love for his people and the FBI used that against him. Stress manifests itself in different ways. Garvey died at the young age of 52 from 2 strokes. Depending on who you ask, history paints a complex picture of Garvey. However, as mentioned earlier, no one can dispute his passion for his people, nor that he can dedicate his life for fighting for the betterment of descendants of Africans dispersed across the globe. And I was telling you that there's nothing new under the sun, because in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that round about us, for since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. See, all those people who was in the FBI, the CIA, all of them made that decision to be a part of those departments because of their conditions. And whatever they had to do to change their environment, they was willing to do it. Every time you see people, what you see on the ESPN today, all those people made those contracts and understood the ordinance and conformed to those ordinances because they wanted their environment to change. But they only did it from a physical perspective. They didn't do it from a spiritual perspective. Okay? They only did it, they only gained the physical stuff. Okay? So in Maccabees chapter 2, verses 17 through 21, and I'm going to read a little bit, okay? Because at this point in time in Maccabees, the king was going around trying to make everybody to conform to the ordinance. He was trying to get everybody to comply with his rules and regulations. He wanted everybody to make that covenant and do what the covenant say by conforming with the covenant, okay? Then it says in Maccabees 1, chapter 2, verses 17, it says, Then answered the king officers and said unto Matthias, On this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city. Look how he's describing Matthias. He's describing him as a ruler, a great man. And therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandments, like as all the nations have done, yea, the men of Judah also, and such house be in the numbers of the king's friends. So when you sign that contract and make that covenant, and you're willing to abide by those ordinances and conform to those, you are a friend to the world and not a friend to the Most High. You are a friend to the kings of the earth at that time who's being ruled by the Hashatan. Okay? Then it says, Judah also, and such as remain as in Jerusalem, so shall thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends. He said, when you make this covenant with me, now you my friend. And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold, and many rewards. What's going on with the people and the athletes today? When they signed that contract and became friends with the kings of the earth, they received silver and gold and many rewards. They was able to receive all those accomplishments. Listen, this is the man of the Most High right here. Then Matthias answered and spake with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brothers walk in the covenant of our fathers. Yet will I and my sons and my brothers walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinance. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion either onto the right or the left hand. See, your salvation comes when you stand hold on the word of the Most High, regardless of what's going on, what's happening in the world, what these people are doing. See, everybody who has made that covenant with the kings of the world today, their spirits have basically have been decimated. They're no good to Abba no more. Abba's not going to use them in the way that he would use a righteous man like Matthias. Abba will not use them the same way because their spirits and their souls are gone. Their hearts are not with Abba. So your salvation comes when you stand on the word regardless of whatever your living condition is. Whatever your living condition is, because people only make a covenant with the kings of the world because they want to change their living condition. We got to understand that because they want to change their living conditions. It says, with the heathens that round about us, for since we depart from them, we have had much sorrow. Talking about from the physical. When you make a covenant with the kings of the world today, you're trying to change your physical lifestyle. You're not trying to change your spiritual lifestyle. My computer moving slow. Hold on. Not Googling. I'm going to paraphrase it. Hold on, let me see something. Here we go. Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10 verse 28. He says, what I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetop. Listen to this. He says, and fear not them which kills the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy, not just kill, but destroy both soul and body in hell. See, your salvation comes when you say, God forbid we should forsake the law and the ordinance. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our faith either on the right hand or the left. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all the sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandments. But what I'm just trying to say is that at this point in time, your salvation comes when you stand on that word. Because you're going to have some people. See, Malcolm was considered probably a martyr. Malcolm was considered a martyr. Marcus Garvey was probably considered a martyr. The Black Panther movements and the people in the Black Panther movement who was trying to do right was probably considered a martyr. Because they're just trying to do right. Where do you think the WIC program came from? What the Black Panther Party was doing? So, I want you to know something. There's nothing new under the sun. What you see going on today has been going on for a long period of time. Because people have made a covenant with the heathen because of their selfish ways and ideas. They made a contract, and they now they got to abide by those contracts, and they have conformed to those contracts. So what you see is people abiding and conforming to those contracts that they made. And we shouldn't be doing them and saying, ain't nothing new under the sun. So your salvation come when you say this. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinance. Because he said, if you love me, keep my commandments. So let me pray so we can go. Thank y'all for listening. I didn't have y'all on them but an hour and about 25 minutes, so that's not too bad. So let me pray. Abba, as we come to you tonight, this evening, on the first day of the week, we thank you, we bless you, we praise you, Abba. We give you all the honor and the glory. Abba, we just thank you for everything you have done, what you continue to do. Abba, we thank you for revelation. We thank you for revealing, for uncovering what we actually see in the world today, because there's nothing new under the sun. What was in the past and what was is going to be in the present, Abba. We just ask that we respond in the right manner. Abba, we ask that you continue to give our people who's trying to do right strength, endurance, belief, and walk in their faith. Walk in faith, Father. We ask that you just continue to cover them with the hedge of protection. But Abba, let us also lean not to our own understanding, because we never know the games that they're playing and the rules that you have told them to play by, because we understand that they wouldn't be in that predicament or that situation if they were to reveal their hands prior to. We understand that everything happened because you have designed for it to happen in the way you want it to happen and when you want it to happen. So we just ask that you let us be obedient to your word and just surrender ourselves to your word and your will. We ask that you forgive us for the sins that we have committed knowingly and unknowingly. Father, we ask that you forgive our ancestors for the sins they have committed knowingly and unknowingly. We ask that you forgive our children, our friends, and our family members for the sins they have committed knowingly and unknowingly, Abba. We ask that you continue to let us see the way you want us to see, hear the way you want us to hear, and speak the way you want us to speak. But as we're going through these times, we're seeing a lot of deaths. We're seeing a lot of sicknesses. We're seeing a lot of illnesses that is upon the land. We're seeing a lot of things that's taking place. We ask that you just help us through this moment. Protect us through this moment. Guide us through this moment. Let us see the way you want us to see, so that we can move the way you want us to move, Abba, because it's a lot going on. You said I didn't come to bring peace. I didn't come to bring peace, but war. And Abba, that's what we see upon the land. Brother against brother, sister against sister, father against son, daughter against mother. We just ask that you just continue to protect and guide us, Abba, and direct our path. And all these things we pray in your higher name. So let it be. Shalom, shalom, shalom. You have a blessed one.
The cycle just repeating. Hydrological mind scope, I feel a divine hope. No Obama healthcare can treat it. Yeah, I'm sick with it. A couple flu shots, nah, I didn't get it. They were killing the firstborns. I wonder what hurts more when looking at conditions that we live in. Feeling like a villain, feeling like I'm trapped in a system. The world shut him out. Now every time I mention God, you get offended. So what is that about? Or rather, I respect your views and what you choose, and not have an opinion on the things you do. Cause then I'm told let them judge you, Bible thumping. And that's the reason why you run and don't believe in nothing. But you'll fall for anything. The tricks and the schemes of the devil. Why you compromise faith and only call on God in the struggle, but don't praise him when he get you out of trouble. I'ma speak on it. I don't support gay marriage, but I love my neighbors. And human rights are important, that's the gladiators. Speaking of which, the Roman Empire back then looked like America, intoxicated on sin. Drunk and lust till we fill up, then we want more. The need for power corrupts us to the core. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. You do it for the gram while misleading the people. So I'ma ask what your posts reach like. Flash a couple hundred, then you end a man's life. Cause he was thinking in his poverty state, he gotta rob Jack and steal to get him a plate. Now he either upstate or laying in his blood, cause he saw he throwing money at a strip club. And he figures this is flowing like it's milk and honey, then he entitled to a piece of shit and live hungry. Nothing new under the sun, there's nothing new under the sun. What's been done will be done, there's There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Cause what's been done will be done. There's nothing new under the sun.